Hi, this is Denise Matthew. I hope you're doing well. I'm back again with another transit report for the week and a few things happening this week. We have a full moon happening on January 28th, and we also have Mercury going retrograde on January 30th. The other thing I wanted to mention is if you're watching these transits and you want to know how to use them in your own chart or for personal use, well, if some of the planets that are transiting the gates, if they're making a complete channel, so say you have the hanging gate 30, and then you have the transit of the sun going through the gate 41, well, then that's going to make a complete channel for you, and it's going to give you some sort of a level of expression of how that energy is flowing. So it may flow a little different for you. Not everybody's going to feel it, but if you're actually aware of what could be happening, then that can help you sort of decipher how it's working for you. The other aspect is if you have that particular gate defined. So for instance, if we have the gate 41 being transited by the sun, and then you have the gate 41, pretty much anywhere in the chart, there's potential for you to feel it. And even if you don't have any of these gates defined, just check it out, see how it shows up for you, because we just don't really know until we actually step into it. The other thing I just wanted to throw out there, a real quick plug, the Human Design Mandala of Life experiment. We're going into week 2 or episode 2. There's a whole video on how to do that. If you're interested, I'd love to have you aboard. People seem to be enjoying it. I'm enjoying it for certain. And I will leave the link below just so you can see a little bit more information about that. And so it's also, if you are actually in the experiment already and you're sort of tracking how the energies are feeling to you, sometimes looking at the transits might be helpful, because I do talk a little bit about the energy as well as the actual videos that I make about the specific gates that the sun will be transiting. So with that said, let's get into the transits. First of all, we'll go through just really quick the full moon that's going to be happening. Full moon is all about culminating and ending, or sort of bringing everything together after we've had the 2 weeks before. So this is sort of ending the energy that started on the new moon that began on January 13th. So now we're moving into a new cycle. This one is all about the gate 19 and also the gate 33. If we were to think about a theme for the full moon, then we would think about this idea of reflection. When we look at the gate 33, especially in the moon, it means we're driven to reflect on what's happened. So I think that this might be a time where we're sort of looking at what's happened. Well, you could even go back as far as till last year, or you could just say for the last couple of weeks. The feeling I get based on this full moon, the feeling I get is it is a culmination, but I also think that it works in with Mercury going retrograde and sort of the energy that's going to be happening at the same time. So it feels like, based on this, that the moon, it's going to be in gate 33. Gate 33 is a very private energy. It's a reflective energy. It's about going in and sort of reflecting on what's happened in your life, and I guess you would say committing it to memory. What happened to me? What did I learn? And storing those memories. I think the whole concept with the gate 33 is, if you're not reflecting on what actually happened, how does it really have a level of impact and experience that this whole energy is all about? The gate 19 is all about a sensitivity, and it's about a sensitivity. It's all about service, because it's in the line 2. It's like, I will give what you need, as long as there's some level of reciprocation too. So it's like a give, but also a receiving as well. So this dedication to service, to serve people, but also to have some level of reciprocation. Just a little bit more reciprocal, because we have the second line. I do feel like there's going to be a drawing back of energy. I think that's what's happened is everybody's sort of exhausted, because there's been so much intensity around a lot of things that have been happening in the world lately. And I just think that people are just exhausted, and they just want to sort of go into their own sensitivity, go into their own being, and almost to the point of, I'm going to take care of myself, and you can take care of yourself. And because I need some time to sort of regroup and see where we've been, and sort of kind of culminate this moment of what's been going on, because it has been a total roller coaster. Right now, the sun is in the gate 41 until January 28th. We know that we've sort of been talking a lot about the energy of the gate 41. That's something that it continues on. We do have Saturn in the gate 41 right now, and it is moving on to the line 3. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. we're getting inspirations of ideas of things that we want to create and bring into the future. And the types of inspirations that these are very much about the potential for the inspiration, potential for something to be built based on our dreams and ideals or inspirations. It's not something that's going to be in the moment. If we remember that and we keep to that plan, it will help us. We do have some interesting shifts in with Mercury that's going to make this energy even stronger. And I'll talk about that in a minute too. January 28th, like I said, just sort of right at midnight Eastern Standard Time, we have the sun moving into the gate 19. And this is all about sensitivity. So when we're talking about the sun, we're talking about people in places of positions of power or leaders. We can also talk about the health of the world, health of the society, the health of the people. And when we're talking about the gate 19, we talk about an energy where there's a level of sensitivity, but we're also talking about an energy that, you know, it's about this idea that people are raw right now. People have been through sort of the ringers, and it's been ongoing, and it continues on. And I think there's this level of, okay, we've been through so much. We need a pause. We need a break. And I think that with Mercury coming into retrograde soon, that's going to be the pause and break that people actually need, because we need, like I said, with the full moon, we need time to reflect on what's gone by. We need time to emotionally connect with what we have coped with, because there's been so much of this roller coaster energy. It's kind of like it's kind of calming down a little bit. And then it's almost like, then you start to know what's actually happened. If you have, for instance, a traumatic event that happens, if you got in a car accident or something like that, and in that moment, you're in the accident, and whatever, it depending, hopefully it's just something small, but you have that, you're shooken up, and you can't even think about anything other than you're sort of in this mode of anxiety. Once that starts to sort of dissipate and you start to recall and recollect what actually happened, how you felt, how, all those types of things, and the aches and pains that you never felt with the adrenaline of the event start to show up. And this is what I feel is happening with the sun. And it's those aches and pains of all the things that have gone by, that are suddenly, people are saying, yeah, this hurts, that type of thing. And we've been inundated with a lot of things. And yes, there is hope in the future. And yes, we are moving to new energy, and it's a day by day thing, but just trying to sort of understand where we've been so that we can start to make a plan and goals for where we're going is really the energy that I feel like we're working with this week as the sun goes through the gate 19. And right now the earth is in the gate 31. Again, this is that democratic leadership. This is all about serving the people, but also understanding that the people are just as important as the leader. And it's like a democratic leader in the truest of ways is always going to understand that without the people, but supporting them, they have nothing. There is no leadership without the people. So this goes with the army, which is the army that supports the general. And that's the kind of energy that we're really looking at. And again, this push, if we have these people who are supposed to be taking care of the country, like in whatever way, whatever shape and power they're in, what are they actually doing? Are they holding true to their work? Are they doing what they're meant to do? And just watching. And I think that if you look at a very mundane perspective of this in a real world, I mean, there was a transfer of power from one individual, one president to another. And, there was a difference in leadership. So leadership is in focus right now. We still do have that gate 45 of the nodes, and that's showing that sort of leadership theme again, that people want to have some level of support. If we're going to put something into the leadership, then we need something to come back and to be accounted for as individuals that are really important, as opposed to you just people below me, and you're there just take what you get and move on. And this is where the people are saying, no, we want more. And ultimately that's the kind of energy. So it's grounding into that energy. January 28th, we move into the gate 33. And again, this is the energy I was talking about, this looking back, to take some time to reflect. This is a private energy. This is going in your space and having some time on your own to be able to really connect with where you've been, what's happened. When we look at the gate 33 and we see this dragonfly, the dragonfly, they consider it a dinosaur, a living dinosaur, because it's brought so many of its characteristics from the past to the future of right now. And because they've actually worked. The gate 33, unlike the gate 13, because they're connected, they make a full channel. One is the listener. This is giving voice to the past, giving voice to what's gone on, and giving voice to reflecting on the past, understanding where we've been, what we've been doing, and how it's affected us. So we have a full moon that's happening in the gate 33, but we also have the earth in the gate 33. So there's a lot of this grounding in of this energy to actually really look back and figure out, where were we, what can we take with us into the future, so that we will have it's almost like another tool in our tool belt, because we went through this, and what can we take from it and bring it into the future. And also there's this level of history being made and documenting and that type of thing. So those are the types of energies. It feels like a more quiet, more introspective kind of week that we're talking about coming on. We do have Mercury going retrograde on January 30th. Mercury is right now in the gate 30, and we know that the gate 30 connects with the gate 41. We also have the sun is just moving out of the gate 41, but there would be a channel there now. Once the sun moves out, Saturn remains in the gate 41. So we have the full channel. Now, if you don't have emotional definition, this will give you emotional definition, even if you don't have any of these gates defined in your body graph. So it's something to think about, and just maybe watch the energy, see how it's affecting you. The other thing is this comes with a level of intensity, a level of burnout, a level of holding on to the right ideas, holding on to the right dreams, holding on to the right inspirations. Also, if we combine it with the gate 33, holding on to the right memories, and not getting stuck in this concept of everything was horrible, there was nothing that came out of it that's good, there's nothing that I can take into the future. What are we holding on to? What parts of what we endured and maybe are still enduring can we take and say, okay, what did I learn from this? Where was the benefit in this? Or if you can't say where's the benefit, what did I see in myself that I was surprised about, that I could actually do and push through these times of difficulty and still maintain my composure and still maintain my head about me and still be able to move forward into the future despite the obstacles. And nice thing about this energy is that we're going to have this energy that's going to be a complete channel. So whenever anything is a complete channel, we know that the energy is going to be more balanced, and that's a nice thing. So we have Saturn that's telling us to get, work on those dreams and inspirations. But, Saturn is a taskmaster. Saturn's going to say, okay, you want to make this happen. How are you going to make it happen? It's not going to be like, oh, that's lovely, you're amazing, everything you say is, Saturn gives you a job and tells you to do it. And if you don't do it, well, you get in trouble. And even if you do the job, Saturn isn't going to give you a rub on the back and say you're wonderful. Saturn, it wants hard work. It wants you to do your best. And so we have Saturn transiting the gate 41 saying, give me your best inspirations, give me your best dreams. Let's see what we can do with them. Let's see how we can move forward on these. When Saturn gets to the fifth line, which it will in a couple of weeks, it starts to say, okay, we've worked through all the little bits and pieces of how we want to make these new things happen in our future. And then it's like, now we're in the most exemplified part of the energy and saying, okay, this is where the real things start to come into being, the real things start to happen. And that's what we're looking forward into in the future. The gate 30, Mercury is going to be transiting gate 30 for a fair bit, because it is going retrograde. It's going to be transiting until March 13th. It's actually going to be transiting the gate 30, the gate 49, the gate 13, and the gate 19. So it's going to be in all these energies. When it's in the 30, it's going to be feeding in on the 41, that whole inspiration, making a dream happen. When it's hitting in the 49, it's going to be making a full channel with Jupiter, and that's all that whole synthesis of the 1949, the revolution, and the support for the revolution, new ideas, new ways of being, bringing mutation to the world, bringing mutation to the tribe, something brand new, some new way of supporting each other. So these are the energies that we're going to be seeing happening and sort of settling into it. The other thing is, Mercury retrograde is always about reflection, and it's a slowing down of the energy. It's a time to, like I said, reflect on what's gone by. And so what we're doing possibly is taking these inspirations and reflecting on these inspirations, or sort of keeping the energy to keep them alive, but also this idea of understanding that maybe the timing is not correct for them to be manifest, or to, to have more things happening, going back, looking at the steps that you've already done, looking at the ideas, tweaking them. Those are the types of things you're going to be doing when it's Mercury retrograde. I will talk about this each week as we go. The other thing that I think in a real world perspective, I think that there could be this drawing back from social media. I think that there's this, because the low side of the gate 30 is being burnt out, like completely burnt out, and just not being able, like, you burn yourself out, you burn other people out, because there's a level of intensity that's so much that people can't even cope, and neither can you. It almost burns you. Like I said, it'll burn yourself out as well. I feel like people are, because it is in Mercury, I think we're going to be seeing that people are going to be drawing back from social media, drawing back from the news, drawing back from this inundation of information that has just gone on, and everybody's opinions, because we still have Chiron transiting the gate 17. This opinion, my opinion is better than your opinion. I'm better at this, and you're not as good, and this type of thing, and just people just saying, no, it's enough. I've had enough. I need to reflect on where I am, where's my center, and how can I rest in being myself, and being strong and healthy and vibrant, because all these energies of this negative kind of information and these opinions, I always say, like, over and again, it's all about parallel opinions. I mean, just because I don't believe something someone else believes doesn't mean I'm going to say, oh, you're wrong, you don't know what you're doing. Instead, you say, okay, I believe that you have your opinion and I have my opinion, and we can be side by side. It really goes back to a level of play when children are small, where they have parallel play, where they're playing side by side, but they're not interacting. So in other words, you're having your opinions side by side, but you're not interacting. It's not important to interact. You don't need to have a cross section. So if you imagine you have a line, or you have a road, and there's parallel lines, and that's a road. So everybody's going straight and everybody's going forward. But as soon as those two lines cross, then you have an obstacle, then you have an impasse. And that's what happens when people are trying to push their agenda and you're trying to push your agenda, and the end of it goes nowhere. And so that's why there's this idea of just stepping back, from this burnout, recuperating, regenerating, re-energizing, whatever needs be, taking care of ourselves, whatever that is. When we look at the Venus, we're talking about beautiful things that make us feel good, things that we like to do, things about women. It could be about powerful women, that type of thing. How we like to I guess reward ourselves, you could say, Venus. And again, it's money, resources, that type of thing. We have Venus right now is in the gate 61. So it's a question about these knowing ideas, or wanting to know the unknowable, or wanting to know things that not necessarily are available to be known. And this ability to want it so desperately that it becomes almost like an obsession, where you can't sort of get those thoughts out of your head, and that type of thing. And we have Mars actually in the gate 24. So we have a complete channel here. Again, more flowing of the energy. Pluto remains in the gate 61 as well. I'll talk about that in a minute, just briefly. The one thing that we want to remember about this inner truth is, and trying to know the unknowable, is this, that when we go in the silence of things, when we go into silence and stop the mind chatter, usually those answers that we're really wanting, that will come to us, will actually come to us. It'll be like an inspiration that will just kind of drop in and suddenly you know something that you never thought you could, or you have an insight on something that you never knew about before. What this says when we're in talking about Venus, we're talking about maybe doing beautiful things for yourself. And again, it goes back to this energy of the gate 33, this reflection, and in the gate 19, all this idea of, starting to do self-care, taking care of yourself, doing nice things to yourself, going in silence, and not always not responding to the pressure of the mind that's saying, I need to know these answers. Instead, just saying, okay, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to let my mind rest. I'm going to give myself a rest. And I think that this is the energy that we're really talking about, this energy of really having a rest. And that really feels like the theme this week. January 30th, we have Venus moving into the gate 60. And again, we know about limitations. This is something that we felt over and again. When it comes to the gate 60 in Venus, we're talking about limitations potentially of resources, of things that we need. So in other words, you could say that because of the way the world is, there may be situations where you can't necessarily go to a spa. Maybe you want to go to a spa, or maybe you want to have some sort of a treatment, a massage, or something that makes you feel good, something that makes you feel very relaxed or whatever. And maybe you don't have the ability for that to happen because of lockdowns or because of limitations of some sort. What this says is okay, you can still have some level of this beauty in your life, some level of this luxury in your life, but how can you reconfigure it in a way that you're still having that luxury, but on the other hand, you're looking at, okay, well, I can't have this, but what can I have? So reconfiguring what you can do given the circumstances that you have. Does that mean you get a couple of nice candles and maybe take a nice bubble bath or something like that, as opposed to the spa? Maybe it's not exactly the same, but can you in that moment say, okay, I'm going to imagine that, whatever. And then we go back to the gate 41, which has been strong, and the whole channel of the 4130. Can we imagine that we're in those beautiful places, doing those beautiful things or whatever? Can we look at where we are in this moment and have gratitude, and also say, okay, yes, the limitation is here, and in this moment, this is what I'm going to do. And for sure, someday I'll be able to do something like I wanted to do right now. And that will come to me. So seeing that in that moment. And I just talked about Mars and how it'll be making a complete channel with Venus until Venus moves on into the gate 60. So just for a couple of days, and it remains in gate 24. Again, this is going into the silence. This is the energy that pushes up the pressure and this will still make a channel, because Pluto's in the gate 61. So there still will be a channel, this unknowable, searching for the unknowable. The pressure is going to remain. The gate 61 is the fuel for trying to go back over what happened in the past, trying to figure out what exactly went wrong. How could you change it? This could be getting stuck in a mind spin, like that type of thing. But it's also this idea that you can again go into the silence, go into this moment of quietness as much as possible, and allowing whatever is meant to come to you, allowing it to come to you in the way that it wants to come to you. This is rationalizing, again, good behavior, or rationalizing something that you're going to do this, and oh, well, that's the way it's going to be. Making excuses for possibly bad behavior. Now, when we're talking about Mars, this is aggressive things. It could be rule a lot of male energy. It could be believing the same old rhetoric and just spinning the same stories and spinning the same rhetoric, and not really wanting to change. Instead of saying, okay, maybe there's something different. Maybe what I believed in the past, because again, this is knowing, this, when we don't know what's happening, or we have questions that aren't being answered, we can also come into this perspective where we start making up answers, or again, we get into the fantasy of the gate 41 and we try and pull in some answers of what exactly is happening. Why is this happening? And then coming up with our own sort of ideas of what is our truth, but maybe not necessarily the real truth of what's exactly happening. Because again, there's no real answer until the answer is ready to be born, basically. Not allowing that pressure to drive you to rationalize or do things that maybe you normally wouldn't do, but you feel like I'm raw, I'm sensitive, I've had enough, my opinion matters, and I'm just going to just continue to spin the same stories. But in the end, it's a lack of creativity because you're spinning the same things. You're not allowing anything new to come into your world. You're only allowing the old to be there. The nice part about this is Pluto's is transiting the gate 61. It is going to move into the line 6 in February, the first week of February. And I really, that's my feeling that things are going to start to settle a little bit, where we're going to get some more of an idea of something that makes a lot more sense, that we're sort of more happy with, that we're not always searching for more and more and more. Like, I think that some answers will start to open up and we'll be able to see from a different perspective than we've been feeling for most of the last year. February 2nd, we have Mars moving into the gate 2, and the gate 2 is all about a direction. And so if we look at this image, we see a moth, and a moth by nature is led by the moon, or they navigate in the nighttime by the moon. Now, because we have so much artificial light because of, humanity, unfortunately, what happens is moths will get off their path. They'll get off their track because they see light and they just think that's the moon. So you've seen, I think there's very few people who haven't seen a moth hitting a light, sort of tapping on it type of thing. And they're drawn to the light. So if we look at this as this is our direction, our true direction, or, some people would say our true north, where are we meant to go? Now, with Mars in transiting the gate 2, it's like, okay, there's this push to get something new, to move into something new. The gate 2 is the beginning of a new cycle, a new quarter. It is the beginning of the quarter of civilization. The quarter of civilization is all about a concrete version, or it's a building. It's a building, as opposed to the first quarter of initiation is all about the mental plane, about thinking about what you want to bring into the real world. And then this next quarter is about civilization, and it is about this building. So when we look at the gate 2, it is the beginning of starting to build something new. And we have this energy, this direction. Now we could say we could have an aggressive energy, or we could have an assertive energy. An aggressive energy to want to move into building new structures, building new things, a lot of building to direct us to a new path. So there could be a lot of emphasis on that. So it's all about building something new, getting on the next page, pushing away from what happened and pushing into the future. Because again, Mars is like a lot of energy and drive. But with Mercury retrograde, I can't imagine that a lot of things are going to get formed and start happening like Mars wants it to happen. So there could be some level of frustration. From a personal perspective, this is about just aggressively trying to find a new direction in life, and not necessarily, again, grabbing whatever you can instead of actually grabbing your true energy of where you're meant to go. Following the breadcrumbs, as opposed to running and saying, okay, I need to get something new. I don't care what it is. It's just something new. So instead of that, just use this energy to drive forward, but use it in a way that it's benefiting you, so that you're actually getting on the path that is meant for you and you're feeling good. And because the thing is if you get on the wrong path, it's just like the moth. You're just hitting the light and you're not really going anywhere. You're not being aligned with where you're meant to go. So going on the path that's meant for you and feeling good because you're moving in a direction that is the right direction, as opposed to any direction at all. And the gate 2 is basically where the magnetic monopole is. So we're getting back to this idea of drawing the right things into your life, or putting your focus and energy into drawing the right things into your life would be the highest expression, in my opinion. So now we have Jupiter, and it is moving into the second line on January 26th, which is actually really good because this is where Jupiter is exalted. It is exalted in the second line. And this is a service to the values of what you want to bring into this world. This is like an expansion, because Jupiter's always going to expand wherever it goes. Jupiter's considered lucky energy. Again, when it's exalted, this is great because we're starting to put that energy into service that is going to help people. Into a service is going to help the tribe, bring the sensitivity into that energy of where do people need to have healing? Where can we help them? And again, this is a mutation. What are the new things that we could bring into this world? So from the most mundane of perspectives, we could say possibly some increase in jobs, in that there's more jobs available for people to work. And when we talk about the second line, it is about I do the work, and then I get paid for it, type of thing. And also this idea that people actually want to get back to work. People want to get into doing the work that they want to do. And I think this idea of just wanting to get back into a new routine, get back into a routine where, for instance, you have a lot of schools closed and you have a lot of industries, things that are closed right now. And this is like a push to say, okay, let's start opening things and getting people back to work, however that looks. It may not necessarily be that things are starting to open, as opposed to the discussions of really trying to make some plans for the future, so that eventually things can start to open up again and everybody can feel safe, and it will be something that's going to help the collective as a whole begin to heal. Again, this rawness and healing, and getting to the next level of understanding where we were and moving into the future. Now, Saturn moves into the line 4 on January 28th, and the line 4 is the line of influence. It is about this energy of holding to the idea of where you want to go, to continue on, to move forward, and to sort of have this steadfastness of what exactly you want to bring into the future. Fourth line is a very fixed energy, so that's why they say there is some level of influence, because when you have a fourth line energy, it's someone who's saying, okay, this is the way it's going to be, and I'm not actually going to shift, and I'm not going to change. The only way a fourth line sometimes will shift or change might be related to socially, the social groups, because again, this is the line of the opportunist, or the social, how you move through the world is through social interaction, and that's a big deal for you. So as long as you're holding on to your main integrity on where you want to go, what you want to do, and the thing about Saturn is again this energy of, okay, you want to do this, how are you going to make it happen? How is this fixed energy? And in a way, I think that there's probably less sway from the social groups when Saturn's there, because Saturn's all about the work and getting it done, and staying the course and staying the path and taking the time that's needed to bring things into manifestation. So I think it's a decent energy. So we have the nodes changing. After a long time, they're actually changing from the third line to the second, and that's because they go clockwise as opposed to counterclockwise. So you're going to notice that the lines go backwards instead of forwards. It's the only ones that actually do, and they're always going to be opposite each other. The nodes going into the line 2, I mean, really talking about a common interest, about people sort of having the same mindset, or people having the same focus or place to go. So more people are agreeing on what needs to happen with the material perspective, and how the material aspect of things need to be distributed, as well as what a leader looks like. More people are saying, okay, this is what we want in a leader. It is always about this idea of being supported as much as you're supporting leader, but now there's more of a consensus, as opposed to everybody kind of wanting to have a little piece of the pie before, and now it's more of, okay, we're coming together, we're sort of starting to think the same way, and because of that, we have more power to this energy of power to the people kind of energy, and saying, okay, this is what we want, and having a more I guess you could say all of the energies kind of lining up together, as opposed to being all frayed, and there's a lot less ability to get things done when the energy is frayed. But when it comes together, a lot of things can happen. I mean, you think about it, it becomes a rope as opposed to a thread. The gate 26 is all about sort of seeing where we've been. And again, this is another reflection energy, a lot of reflecting happening. Like I said, it's moving forward into this reflection of what happened, looking at the people that were taking advantage of other people, looking at what they did, because again, this is the South Node. We're moving away from this. So looking at the styles of leaders who were taking what they wanted, like in other words, it was a one-sided winning proposition as opposed to a win-win. And also, we're going to be taking stock for, like, I would say that if you look at the pandemic and you look at what was happening during the pandemic, and you say, okay, so there were some people who like to take advantage of people being in a position of not a good position, we'll say. So for instance, I heard of some people who back in the beginning when things were getting were getting rough and there wasn't much in the line of you couldn't get hand sanitizer, those types of things. There were people who were hoarding those, and then they were trying to sell them, and it wasn't just hand sanitizer. There was a lot of different things that people needed, like masks and types of things, and hoarding it and saying, okay, I have it all and I'm going to sell it at a huge price and you're going to just have to pay it and shut up. And so these kind of things were happening. But then you had other people who were saying, okay, I know that we're in a bad position and I know I could take advantage of you right now, but I'm not going to, because I have enough integrity to say, no, I'm not going to take advantage of you. What's happening now is now we're reflecting and we're seeing, okay, who were the people who were trying to get whatever they could at all costs to actually benefit from the strife of others, and who were the people who stood in their integrity and were helping, even though they could have benefited. And see, this is where the tally is coming up, and we're really going to start to reflect on who were those people that were taking for their own good and who weren't. And we could see people starting to fall from grace because they're actually being called out for the bad behavior. And then people who were in their integrity being brought up and sort of giving the props for what they did and how they treated people in times of crisis. And I think that's the whole idea. In times of crisis, it really proves who you are as an individual, ultimately. We talked a lot about Uranus last week. It remains in the line 6. It is about this, I want to know what you're going to give me type of thing. And how can I care unless I know that you care for me? So there could be some of this reticence about, we've been through a lot. We've done a lot. Can I trust you? Can I trust that you're going to feed me? The other thing about this is that, unfortunately, this can speak to some level of food insecurity, which I think that is a big problem, unfortunately, that we're having right now, and trying to come up with some ideas of how we could change it, in that have some new and innovative ideas on how we can start to feed the people that need to be fed. And so it's again, this idea of how can we feed these people? What are some new ideas? What are some things we've never done before? Extremely innovative and inventive ways of feeding humanity, feeding the people who need it the most. And we move into Neptune. Neptune is the same. It will not be changing until February 17th, when it will go into the line 4. There's always going to be some cloacal veil in this energy where we don't exactly know what's happening. From a Monday perspective, this could be from medical perspective. I think as Neptune continues to move through the energy, I think that we will start to see these different ways of how they're starting to treat the pandemic and the vaccines and having the vaccines. And I think that what's going to happen is, right now there still is this cloak of not knowing exactly how it really is working and how it is, how efficient it is, because there just hasn't been enough time to know how efficient anything is, or how it's working, or how it's helping or not helping. As it moves into the 4th line, which it will be on the 17th, so I know I'm going a little bit ahead of time, that is where we start to look at where we've been with the energy and looking at what they've done already and modifying it and changing it, reconfiguring how they're treating people and that type of thing. A personal perspective, this is about creativity, creating just because you want to creating things that are beautiful because they make you feel good, creating because it makes something come alive inside of you, and to not forget to do those types of things because they do support you. When we're in the 3rd line, it's always going to be about experimenting, changing. Maybe people are picking up different ways of being creative. I mean, creativity comes in a multitude of ways. It's not just like singing and dancing type of thing. It could be art. It could be, that's pretty common. But even like if you play a sport, that's a level of moving the body and moving some level of your energy, and it's an expression of your creativity based on whatever it is that you want to do. So anything can be creative as long as you feel it's creative, and finding these different things that make your heart sing, so that in the midst of suffering, or in the midst of things that are being oppressive, or life is being difficult, you have something to be inspired by, something that you sings to you, but not necessarily to anybody anybody else, and it doesn't really matter because it really matters to you more than anything. And I talked about this last year, that when I was predicting some things, that I thought this whole idea of the beauty industry, and I feel like the beauty industry, because of the gate 22, I think there's going to be a lot of shifts in what we believe as being beautiful. And I think there's this more natural perspective. It moves into the fourth line. We're modifying what's happening, and maybe not revering all the ways that all these beauty industry gurus who people have revered for so long, and looking at them as human beings, and understanding that just because they have the lavish, beautiful life doesn't mean that they are in any way better than anybody else, and seeing everything from a more grounded perspective, as opposed to the overblown kind of glamorization of what beauty looks like. Pluto, like I said, Pluto will change on February 8th. And I really do feel that that is going to be a huge difference in how we experience our questions, the questions that we have that are, or the pressure that we feel for answers to come. And I think it's going to shift in a huge way. And as we get closer, I will actually probably next week, I'll talk a little bit more of how that might look based on the line 6. The last thing is we have Chiron, and it's moving from the line 2 to the line 3. This is kind of a nice energy too, in that we move from opinions and just because. This is moving into an energy of opinions that are actually making sense, and not necessarily as in do they make sense to you, or more like the perspective of, okay, if this is the opinion, what can we actually bring from it? What is substantiated as opposed to just an opinion? So again, this is more like collecting the details that we need to actually say, yes, this is actually something that we can build a foundation on, as opposed to something that has no meaning, no real substance to it. So we're moving into something more substantial, where we're saying, okay, you have an opinion, wonderful. Show me something that is going to support your opinion. So show me something that's going to support what you're telling me, as opposed to just telling me. And this is where we're getting into more of a push to get the evidence that supports the opinions that are being flown around all over the place. And that is everything. And I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye for now, and I'll see you soon.